None of this is pertinent information, by the way. This is filler. We are officially wasting time with this side quest, and for the first time since this interrogation began, I'm not the one digging in my heels. The ghost's agenda has been amended to include the indirect. Erica wants to know everything, and she doesn't seem to care that it's impossible. My memory is a shadow thing, an overexposed negative decades old and decayed, corroded, nearly liquefied in an ethanol cistern, and the exercise is pointless. I didn't plaster the walls of my hospital cell with newspaper clippings and snapshots of my estranged wife. I didn't hatch sinister plots to exact revenge. I didn't plan her death at my hands. Andy's last beau was still more than a year away. I cried a lot. That's what I did in between circle jerks where I shared my regrets and my shame. I cried and I wheezed, and I buried my face in my hospital-issue plastic-lined pillow so my roomie wouldn't chide me or attempt to offer comfort. I would be fine, and then I would consider simple, mundane tasks devoid of her purpose and influence, and I'd hyperventilate. She'd left a hole, a canyon, a royal fucking gorge in my identity. I can't say with any certainty if she broke my heart because our relationship had lacked warmth and tenderness for a long time, but she shattered my sense of self, self-worth, and purpose. She hadn't violated my trust, but she'd fucked with my guidance system. I was spinning out of orbit without her gravity into the uncharted void, and it wasn't just terrifying, it was incomprehensible. I had no point of reference. I just couldn't see life without her. I was flying blind. My mental health holiday was 1 part zombie trance and 2 parts late-stage rabies, until one day it was. One day, around week 3, it wasn't so bad. Play acting the repentant drunk helped, kept me busy at least, gave me an immediate purpose. I made lists and wrote letters to all the people who I'd hurt. I memorized and repeated affirmations of self. I found Jesus under the couch and slipped him on like a hand puppet. I engaged in the game of ending my addiction. Of course, in my room, in my dark nights of the soulless, I confessed nothing to no one. I had no real plan for what came next, but I knew that step 1 would be to find a drink ASAP. I wasn't there to go clear, I was just hiding out. I hate to credit enforced sobriety for anything positive, but with the fur lining removed, my raw gray matter had no option but to face the dragons and defend itself or die. I was depressed, but I wasn't ready to lay down and die quite yet, which surprised the fuck out of me. It seemed that I still had a vestigial spine and a badly bruised self-preservation, gene kicking it beneath the noise. My therapy buddies were happy for me when I shared my will to live. Some even clapped the slow, dead clap of the wet-brained. I was happy for me, and being happy about anything was a victory. There are 2 anecdotes worth sharing, if for no other reason than they prove how removed from real life institutional living can be. The first involved my birthday rat Paul, and the second concerned Emily, the ritty-out chick I adopted 4 days before I checked myself out and resumed drinking myself to sleep. Paul had survived my breakdown because he was a rat, and rats are an excellent example of evolution giving catastrophe the finger. He'd eaten what I ate and drank from the various faucets I left leaking, and he shit wherever he wanted. I'm not sure if he even noticed my mental collapse. Why would he? Paul's life as a human companion had been decidedly unstructured and unorthodox. He didn't have a cage. He slept in an old UMaine sweatshirt that he'd chewed to his liking, and he spent his days sniffing the air and exploring the contained universe of his trailer. He was social, but he wasn't needy. He was probably the lowest maintenance relationship I'd ever had or have enjoyed since, to be honest. Which isn't to say I didn't love the little plague carrier. We were tight, and when I climbed into that cab on day 1, Paul was sitting on my shoulder. It never occurred to me to leave him behind. It just didn't. Spoiler alert, Paul stayed with me the full run of rehab and never caused a scene or made trouble. He was a remarkably chill rodent. He did, however, cause the middle-aged woman in charge of intake a fair amount of anxiety upon arrival, so I guess he made one scene. It seems the woman had an irrational fear of rats, and she displayed her phobia, for all to see, the moment Paul poked his nose out of my hood to say hi. Her previously disinterested face had glitched before losing all human coloring, and she'd screamed like a rabbit caught in a snare. If you've never heard a rabbit screech, consider yourself blessed. The incongruity of having a pocket rat join me on my hospital adventure was not, in and of itself, the amusing part of this story. The poor woman's terror and resultant loss of control was not, in any way, a joking matter. Neither was the cool head of the resident shrink who took my companion's presence in stride and designated Paul an emotional support animal on the spot. No. The retrospective hilarity is that my psyche was so frayed in that moment that I had forgotten completely just how unorthodox having a pocket rat really was, and when she began screaming, I had assumed that I was the cause of her terror. Standing behind the plexiglass partition with my overnight bag, I became instantly, completely and utterly convinced that something must be horribly wrong with me, wrong enough to elicit animalistic terror. My autonomic response was to begin screaming in harmony. Very few places exist where the emotional balancing act is as fragile as it is in a residential mental health facility. Our impromptu duet threw the switch on a Keystone Cops-esque carnival of folly and discord the likes of which exist solely in prison riots and Black Friday super sales. Shit got real and out of hand very quickly. Someone pushed a button. Automatic doors closed and latched. Suddenly there was an alarm klaxon. A pair of really big guys in scrubs materialized on either side of me, reeking of adrenaline and aftershave. One grabbed my shoulder and still I shrieked. His buddy stepped between me and the apoplectic nurse, and then he started screaming because, dig this, he was batshit petrified of mice and rats as well. Bonkers. Completely, unironically insane. Maybe 90 seconds elapsed before someone in authority broke our collective madness and paralysis, shut off the siren, and spoke calmly and reassuringly to all parties. I was ushered to one corner of the room and cooed at while someone spirited away the desk nurse, and yet another kind hand led the little big man back to solid ground. Order was gently restored. Paul, unfazed by the event, crawled back into my hood and curled up, and that was how my summer vacation began. If nothing else of consequence had emerged from my time away, I would at least have a story no one would quite believe, but would love all the more for its absurdity. The second dance macabre was a girl my age with pink and green hair who was coming in as I was heading out. She hadn't had the 2 weeks of preemptive shuddering under her belt that I did when she arrived. She hadn't voluntarily checked herself into Casa del Cabeza, nor was she happy about having temporarily lost her personal sovereignty. Emily was ripshit, and righteously so. She twitched and foamed like a mongrel chihuahua. Heads up for all of you who have been spared the indignity of rehabilitation. One of the first rules of getting sober is to avoid making any life-altering changes while in limbo. Don't change your will or your gender. Don't get married or divorced. Basically, don't set your life on fire any more than you already have until you're sorted out. There are good reasons for this. Give a lifelong addict a week or two of sobriety, and they're apt to experience the zeal of a convert and begin tearing down walls or building shrines to new gods left and right. New romances are frowned upon in limbo, especially the spontaneous, kindred spirit variety forged in-house. The difficulty is that when humans are vulnerable, they usually crave contact and comfort, and sex is a wonderful replacement drug because it deals in power exchange and security. Sex means connectivity. Sex means you have value and you aren't alone. The men in white coats and scrubs know this, so most groups are segregated by gender, and the resident dorm rooms most definitely are. Segregated and monitored, which is what makes my story so implausible. Enter the wackiness. My roomie was a chatty black guy in his early 50s named Chuck, who had a thing for pain meds, and we got along fine. He had no qualms with Paul, and he didn't mind if I stared at the wall while he went off on one of his conspiratorial rants. He'd never married, had no kids, and if it hadn't been for the inconvenience of a knee replacement, he would never have developed a taste for oxycodone. He was a victim, you see. A corrupt and unfeeling system he referred to as the Great White Drug Cartel had ruined his life, and now that he was getting clean, he had big plans to take down Big Pharma. He knew his rights. He had a lawyer lined up and so on. It was cute and amusing but unoriginal, and when his time was up and we shook hands, I was relieved because the more I regained myself, the harder it had become to tune him out. I had less than a week to go, and I would have the room to myself, which was great. It would facilitate packing. I pace when I'm doing sums. Unlike conventional prisons, there is no lights out in rehab. There is no bedtime for bonzos because the biorhythms of the coming down are in a state of flux, which is why the common areas are always well lit and monitored. Sleep is encouraged, and there are no scheduled sessions or activities past 9 p.m., but no one is locked into their cells and told to keep it down. There is a symphony of droning chatter and tears that moans through the tiled hallways on a monotonous loop. Shrieking delirium dreams and chain rattling, prayers and curses, the soundtrack of the pathetic. I can sleep through anything. Emily hadn't slept in days, and it showed. I didn't hear the door open or close. I didn't hear her furtive breathing or smell her fear reek. I only became aware of my visitor when her cold knees pressed into my back, and even that didn't immediately disturb me because Andy's knees were always cold, and my body hadn't fully registered her absence yet. My eyes fluttered. I reached back to pull Andy's hand around my waist, which was a mistake because it was Andy at all, and the knees in my back were connected to something very sharp and very unfriendly. I froze. It flashed across my half-awareness that I would have made a terrible soldier, and that everything my dead mother had said about me was true, and I was going to die horribly and pointlessly from terminal stupidity. I cleared my throat and dropped my hand. "Don't move," female, forced whisper through clenched teeth. I didn't move. "Just be cool," amendment, super pissed off female hissing through iron jaws. I became ice. "Okay, am I gonna sit up now? Just don't try anything." "Yes, ma'am." It never fails to unhinge me when cliché makes an appearance in living color. Here I was starring in a B-movie with dialogue written by a 12-year-old, and the realization did nothing to make me feel better. The hissing creature with the cold knees and stabby thing slipped off my bed, and I just stayed put with my eyes glued to the featureless white wall. I had fallen asleep with the light on again, which wasn't unusual, and I could see her shadow twitching. I could hear her fumbling through my things and muttering. I risked it. "Hey, can I help you find something?" That was my opener. When in doubt, be as polite as possible. Wisdom courtesy of the ever-gruff James Pelletier. She stopped rustling and giggled, like a bird. She twittered, and I took that as permission to sit up and have a look. She was tiny, like a toy. Emily was what would happen if Mattel or Hasbro decided to launch a line of hyper-realistic child-sized junky action figures. She was also wearing nothing but an ill-fitting hospital-issue Johnny, which explained the cold knees. "Hi," she said. "Don't tell anyone I'm here, okay?" Which is exactly what cliché demanded she say, and at least one of us knew it. Send and the clowns, Mr. Producer, let's have a little night music. I smiled and played it cool. What else was I going to do? Sound the alarm? I said. "Sure," and rubbed my eyes just in case I was having a very vivid and unoriginal dream. Isn't this the sort of thing post-adolescent wet heads fantasize about rehab? Not me personally, but it seems pretty boilerplate. She blinked at me, and then I saw the piece of broken plastic she was wielding. Her shiv, I thought absently. Cute. She immediately set it down on the floor and grinned weakly. "Sorry, I didn't know if you were like a sex addict or something." "Which is why your natural inclination was to crawl into bed with me." "Sure, makes sense," I said. "So you crawled into bed with me. Makes sense." And then I laughed and she laughed a little, and that was how I met Emily. I gave her a blanket, and she sat on the empty bed across from me and we talked. Well, she talked, I listened. I don't need to bore you with details because you already know them. You've seen this movie. Probably on an airplane. When she was finished and exhausted, she asked if she could sleep next to me, and I big spooned her, and we both slept just fine. In fact, I slept better than I had in weeks, and there's nothing strange in that at all. There was nothing sexual in the embrace, but it felt natural, or at least it felt familiar. In the morning, she slipped out, and I didn't see her again until lunch, where we shared a table and made small talk like we were meeting for the first time. We hadn't agreed on that, but it seemed proper. I told her I was getting out in 4 days, and she'd nodded. That night, she slipped her way back into my room, sans Shiv, and we held on to each other like Hansel and Gretel in the deep, dark forest. She was sick, and she was too hot, and she shivered in my arms, but that was okay. "You have a rat," she said. I nodded and lifted Paul off my shoulder. I handed the little guy to her. She touched her nose to his little whiskers and smiled. Paul was unfazed. He's cute. Holding her had made me more solid, and I slept like the dead. That's it. There's nothing more to that story. Just a plotline left hanging when the show got canceled, when I checked out and went in search of my well-deserved drink. I never heard a word from her or about her, and I didn't expect to, so I didn't think about it. I didn't fall in love with her. I'm not sure I even liked her, and I certainly wasn't attracted to her. Love and like and lust had been temporarily removed from my central processing center, and if I'm being honest, that was my intention all along. I somehow got through all of that before Penny yawned her way downstairs to fetch her tea and her oatmeal. I multitasked myself milk with brandy and a bagel with goat cheese and sliced ham. I put the kettle on. I mumbled mechanically and without emotion while I attended to the ritualistic morning chores. Erica said nothing. She just sat in the corner by the cellar door and listened. I wonder if she believes me or if she cares or whether or not the effort is all about process rather than content. I wonder how much the dead already know and if they lay in wait for omissions or flat-out lies. Do they crouch, prepared to pounce if we flub the confession? It seems likely, but I don't know. All I know is that she didn't interrupt me, and that had made it easier. Penny hugs me and takes her seat, and the music that underscores our post-Erica existence changes key and continues. Today, I decide, today I'm gonna touch base with the boychild. Maybe drag him to a family dinner. When Penny leaves to catch her bus, I take down the notepad off the refrigerator and make a list. 12. My son is a piece of glass, Part 1. I don't drive. I don't even have a valid driver's license anymore. I haven't in years. For reasons. I seem to keep falling back onto that old chestnut reasons. It's a cheat and I know it. It's a way to avoid depth, and at the end of the day, I'm a lazy hack wearing shoes that don't fit. I have half a dozen lousy stories I'm currently working on, and all of them are derivative garbage because cheating is easier than putting in an honest day's work. It doesn't help that I self-medicate. It doesn't help that everything sounds better when you're cross-eyed. Driving makes me anxious. It always has. I don't like being responsible for a 2000 lb. Bullet, and I don't like how many people feel comfortable with that kind of power. 42,000 Americans died in car-related accidents last year, which is a truly terrifying statistic considering I live in a town where the year-round population hovers around 5,000. I imagine everyone I know, everyone I see on a daily basis, and then some just gone. And I can do that because last year my wife was crushed beneath a logging semi on her way home from a dentist appointment she hadn't dared reschedule. It's just snow, Cameron. I'll take it slow, she'd said, and she had. I'm sure. Shit happens. I've never wanted the responsibility because I am unsafe, and I know it. My mother was a professional wet brain when she was alive, and I remember too many close calls with her behind the wheel. My mother, reeking of cheap white wine and resolute in her bitter disregard for everything and everyone. It's a miracle I survived past infancy. It still blows my mind that it was her brain and not her liver that had exploded. I was 14 when Julie Pelletier suffered a catastrophic aneurysm. She died with a wineglass in one hand and my father's balls in the other. There had been one hell of a wake to follow, cheers, Ma. Not only am I a nervous, hesitant driver, I am a woefully unskilled one. I forget what I'm doing or where I'm going or which pedal does what, and it's frightening. Fortunately, I live on a small island and I can walk everywhere I need to go. I hadn't owned a car when I met Erica, but I bought her one shortly after we began dating. Erica loved driving, which makes her death farcical as far as I'm concerned. Standing shoulder to shoulder with the sheriff, I'd identified Erica's body by the dress she'd left the house in and her opal engagement ring. The wreck hadn't left anything else even remotely recognizable. I told you so, kitty cat, was the best I could do for a final word before I vomited and collapsed inward. I hadn't been the one to take the call because life is cruel. It had been Boo who'd picked up, said hello, and because life is not only cruel but venomous to boot, the sheriff had spilled the news of Erica's passing to our 18-year-old son. He'd only just begun answering to Mr. Pelletier, like a badge of honor he'd earned by surviving into arbitrary adulthood, and so the sheriff had assumed Boo was me. Assuming truly makes an ass out of you and me. Walking the morning streets, dragging these tortured memories out of the mud, and I'm angry. I'm angry at Erica for ruining the clean air, for fouling it with the stench of human waste. My wife, my favorite human, wasted in such a pointless anticlimax. No thunder of guns, no blaze of glory, just gore and stupidity played out on the icy no man's land between Bangor and Lucerne. A stupid death kitty cat. You deserved better, and so did we. I'd watched my son's face deflate from across the living room, and then his jaw unhinged and fell open unnaturally into a gaping O. We'd been watching Star Trek and eating nachos off paper plates. Penny was on the floor in a beanbag. I was drinking a gin and soda and was pretty lit, but one look at his face, and that horrible O sobered me like a shot of epinephrine. His face had scared the shit out of me, and as tired and cliché as it sounds, I fucking knew what had happened. I knew it. I knew she was gone, and I knew that I was not prepared for anything that was to follow. Boo handed me the phone, and Penny asked him what's wrong, and he'd ignored her. He just stared at me, and I could hear his brain screaming at me in a tiny little baby boy voice. Take it back, Daddy. Make the bad man take back what he said about Mama. But I couldn't. Daddy sucks at Magic Son. Instead, I told the man on the phone that I was Cameron Pelletier and made him repeat his calm concern and condolences. I hoped it ruined his night. It certainly ruined mine. I'm mad at the ghost, and I don't mind saying so because I've convinced myself that she can't hear me while I'm out and about. I don't know why I believe that. Nothing about this makes any objective sense, but I've decided to frame my conversations with the dead as a traditional haunting, so I've confined her to the house we'd shared. Erica didn't follow me on my walks when she was alive. Why would she start now? It makes sense if you don't think about it. Christ, I wish life made sense. People still ask me if the kids are okay, and I lie to them without hesitation. Of course they are. Of course they're sad, and of course they miss their mother, but they're strong kids. They have good heads on their shoulders. They have each other. They'll be okay. We're working through it, and that's the biggest load of horseshit ever because we aren't working anything out together. We are fortified city-states with liberal import and export regulations. We are isolated tracks on a Phil Spector production, and if you play us backwards, we whimper and sob through clenched teeth. It's not pretty. Yankee grief is cold and determinist. The children, my children, our children are prematurely ancient behind granite walls and cast iron grates, and it's our fault, Erica dear. The children are not fine, but they have iron-bound coastlines because that's what we do here. We woodshed the weaklings into breakwaters. It's what we do. I haven't been much of a father to them recently, and it bothers me. Lots of things bother me. Winter is coming fast, and I can't prevent the lakes from freezing over any more than I can press rewind and replay the old reel to reels and engage as last year's man. I chant the same tired litany over and over, crunching through leaves red-faced and cold, sweating out last night's booze. I repeat it like a profane prayer. I remain, I provide, they are warm, they are fed, as if that would please some eldritch god enough to forgive my paternal impotence. I am so angry at them for needing me to be more, and I am so angry at them for never asking or expecting me to be. I resent how patient they are with me. I am so damned angry at Erica for dying and leaving me alone and incomplete. I hate, and I hate that I hate because it's not me. I don't hate things. I'm too lazy and tired to care enough to hate anything. I can love, and Jesus Christ, that costs enough calories. I don't waste time hating things, Erica. You know that goddamned well enough. She can't hear me. I've convinced myself. I've decided that she can't hear me because I'm halfway to somewhere mundane and breathing too hard. I'm not walking, I'm trotting, and it's damned cold. My head is too full, like a swollen red balloon ready to explode into so much useless wet rubber. Balloons freak me out. I really should slow down before I have a heart attack. I don't want to die on my way to, where was I going? I don't want to orphan my children twice. I have a brother and a sister somewhere. We're not close. We don't dislike each other, but we have nothing in common, and that's almost the same thing in practice. I'm the oldest by more than a decade, and neither of them remember me living at home. Sissa and Bubby were the rapid-fire result of my father needing to forget my mother's ignoble departure. He had been a widower, too, for a little bit. I'm pretty sure you lose the rank and title when you upgrade, and he had. Amber really is a peach. He'd flipped the same switch inside himself that I did, and he'd found a ritty-out chick half his age to move on with. The new and improved Mrs. Pelletier had been a fertile little bit of rebound sunshine. I was happy for the old man, truly, and if I hadn't been a quasi-formed teenager when they debuted, I might have bonded more significantly with my half-siblings. They were cute, like other people's dolls or pets. They took up very little space, which was nice because I was a crowded house. My head had been full of Andy and the unexpected regularity of sex. True story, I lost my virginity the same year I lost my mother, which is morbidly satisfying now that I think about it. The two events weren't related, but one sure as hell eclipsed the other. Take a guess. I dare you. My baby sister Bijou almost died when she bit down on a balloon at her second birthday party. The damn thing exploded down her tiny throat, and she turned blue and uncharacteristically silent, her eyes wide, terrified and uncomprehending. That's the head trip of bobbies and toddlers. Everything is either new and unknown, even terror. Amber had screamed uselessly, and my father, eminent Bishop of Gruff and master of the zero expression James Forrest Pelletier, had unceremoniously reached two calloused fingers down my sister's throat and removed the obstacle. Bijou had cried for a minute, then forgot why she was upset. Baby head trip part 2, the bounce back. My stepmother, face destroyed by cheap makeup, and tears had kissed the little cherub no less than 1,000 times when my father grunted. Keep them damned things out of her mouth, for Christ's sakes, and drained his fucking beer. The son of a bitch hadn't even blinked. I was barely 17 at the time, and the whole experience mind-fucked me. The split-second reality that my new sister was almost a dead girl before she could even say my name, Camwyn doesn't count, hit me harder than being a pallbearer at my own mother's funeral had. And it wasn't that my mother had been a wretched bitch, and that I adored my little Sissa. She had been, and I didn't. No. It was the horror show of fragile meaninglessness. It was a deep philosophical revulsion in the pit of my adolescence, the idea that so much potential energy could be winked out by a balloon. My mother's death had been a combo platter of karma mixed with entropy and divine justice, but this, on a primal level, I honestly believed that my mother had deserved to die. In the very least, she had run enough of her race that whatever point her life was meant to have made had been made. No one cared if Julie Pelletier finished the race, but this. If little Bijou had gone down at age 2, the victim of a fucking 10-cent birthday balloon, then either there was no God in heaven, or, if there was, he was a phenomenal douchebag. The reality bomb that hit me was that life is not just fleeting, it's a freaking soap bubble. I just witnessed futility and indeed my father's complete indifference to its fragility. Who the hell was this man? Were there moving parts in there, or was he, in fact, a stone sculpture wearing pants? What the hell kind of shit had he seen that made him the way he was? What did I have to look forward to learning? I was screwed up for days, and balloons still freak me out. I don't have a pithy anecdote about my baby brother. I think I've shared 500 words with him in toto, which would be sad if I cared, but I don't. He's not a bad guy. I just don't know him, and that's fine. I don't have to. Blood only defines our bad habits. It has little bearing on who's in your fantasy hockey league. We're Facebook friends, I think. I'm not sure. Facebook annoys the shit out of me, to be honest. It's amazing how full of myself I get, how incredibly self-absorbed and superior. I shouldn't be here today. I am in a mood, and everyone I walk past can tell. I must have a force field around me. Hands in my pockets, and I'm fighting the urge to weep, and why? I have no reason to weep. I'm not a victim. I'm the villain in this story, aren't I? I'm the drunken antagonist who offed his wife and buried the evidence. I'm the one who didn't care enough to grieve or repent or confess. I just drained my beer and sat there unblinking while the world trembled around me. I was so damned cold because of what? Baby sisters and balloons. Dead mothers, alcohol-saturated resignation, uninspired nihilism. What the hell is wrong with me, and why on earth would I lie to you here? Why would I say that blood has no bearing when I'm being destroyed daily by the weight of my children's need and my static impotence? I don't even want to drink, but it's too late. Autopilot. Cruise control. My hands reloaded before my brain could catch up to the conversation, and it's always been that way. No one has clocks anymore, everyone has phones. Fuck clocks, right? I have a Mickey Mouse watch because I'm a mouse and Erica, and I went to Disney once before we had kids, and it was magic. And I know that if I lift my sleeve, there's a very real chance that hours will have passed between conscious heartbeats. White-gloved hands marking the slipstream where I've said and done things off the eternal record that I'll never remember because they happened to a time traveler. Not me, officer. I was at a pity party. I have no idea who fucked your daughter down in the Barrens. There's no point in real time. Real time is just a Halloween costume anyway. Grease paint and pipe cleaner horns. Evidently, I was walking to the post office. Good to know. I need to talk to my son, and I need the ghost to shut up long enough to let me do it. I need to reemerge as a father and engage with him on a level deeper and more meaningful than our current, nervous, roomy post-tragedy tippy-toe so he don't break kind of way. He won't break. That's just my fear and my revulsion making up mythologies. He isn't made of glass. He's a splintered reflection of his mother and his father. Erica was armor-plated and solid. I don't have my father's salt-crusted leather or his steel-gray eyes. I don't have his Quebecois gift for speaking with his hands. I don't have his gruff. But I have seen things, and I have been things, and I have survived things that catalyze moments into madness. I am an island off the coast of Maine. I am not a lighthouse, but I can light a cigarette in the wind. I am so many sad but true things. And I know that I'm drunk because I'm lost in the figurative again. It's a disease, not the alcoholism, but the inability to latch onto concrete images. I need to teach my son how to bank his marbles for later because he'll need them. I need to tell him how I've managed to remain standing while the world drowned around me, and more than anything, I need to stop jerking my metaphorical cock and balls. Boo needs a tangible male role model. Fuck the metaphysical hubris. Boo doesn't need words, he needs substance. My son stopped going to school one day, and I almost registered it. Almost. Boo quit driver's ed, and the only reason I know that is because Penny told me, as an afterthought, one morning at breakfast. I must have nodded and filed it away for later, but later is a dead letter office these days. There must be mountains of unopened mail in there, virtual caverns of molding inquiries and information. It didn't occur to me that Boo might equate driving with his dead mother, and that's a dad fail. That's the sort of connection that should have screamed at me, but I don't drive, so why would anybody? I don't think Boo is drinking, but if he was, I doubt I'd notice because I do, doesn't everyone? No, Cameron, he is not you. The universe is not you. He is unique. He is his own mess of flesh and wires. I need to breathe something other than my own too. I need to escape this alternate reality where time is relative and everyone has a name tag. I don't know why people wear name tags. Most of the customers are locals, and the ones who aren't don't care if you don't call them by name. Why would they? I wouldn't if I were them, and all I wanted was to pick up my mail and get back to it. I would just pick up my mail and get back to it for fuck's sake. Why are we attaching value to artificial nicety? Why are we elevating our function beyond its purpose? Sometimes I order lunch from the tavern across from the cop shop, and when I pick up my sandwich and my paper bowl of corn chowder, I do not fuck around pretending that the girl at the register is a real person with a backstory and plot movement all her own. No paper-hatted asshole made my ham and cheese. That, my friend, is a hologram. I imagined the sandwich and it materialized. If I continue to evolve eventually, I won't even need to imagine the sandwich or the dirty glass door or the Formica countertop, because I will simply digest myself as required. That's some blue pill arrogance free of charge. I don't hate my neighbors because they aren't even people. They're extras in my big show. They're mannequins. I know their names because I went to school with them or their brothers, fucked around with their sisters or thought about it, not because I care. I know them because our kids were in scouts together and not because they wear fucking name tags. There is legitimately no air in this room. Fuck all of this. The ghost is right. I need to engage. That is the word I keep repeating, isn't it? I need to vomit all of this. Everything must go. And that means the stories that aren't stories and the secrets that are only secrets because I've made them that way. These frozen, buried moments that I'm desperately trying to ignore and belittle are melting me from the inside out, and I'm becoming a puddle in a thin Ziploc baggie, and Penny and Boo deserve better than that. I have absolutely no idea how long I've been circling the house. 3 cigarettes? 4? Probably 4, that seems right somehow. I don't remember walking home. It's dark. It's late October and the sun gets sleepy early these days. I'm sure I followed every prescribed ritual. I always do. The porch is neat and tidy, trash bins all in a row. There are lights on behind the heavy drapes. There is steam from a pipe that bleeds the furnace, and there is peeling paint where it's bubbled and split. It's not a design flaw, just an afterthought. The house is old. It predates fancy hot water heaters. I feel like a 46-year-old virgin. I don't even know if my son is inside or if he's in someone else's car being ferried to some other place to do other things, but I need him right now. If he's not home, I can call him, I think. I have a phone. He has a phone. We all have swords. I'll call him and tell him to come home and sit down, and I will not cry, I promise. I'm not made of glass either, son. I am sea roses holding back the eroding high tide, and you are like me. You are a bud between thorns flipping off the clamoring waves. I won't listen to the ghost, and if she protests, I'll put her in a box and give her something to read. There's a story about a school teacher and an apocalypse of acid rain I've been scratching together for the past few months, and she can chew on that while you guessed it, engage. I overuse words. I told you I'm a hack. From Arc, previously unpublished. Danny, poor sweet stupid fat black Danny. Oh, Danny boy, wake up, wake up. You're not dead, are you? No, he's still wheezing. His face is glued to the oiled wood of his booth. Thas good, you go on and sleep, Danny boy. I'll fill you in later. Okay. Gotta see a man about a dog, which is code for pissing. Excuse me, Mr. Quail, I can't stop. I've got to see a man about a dog. Yay for idioms. Good talk, Danny, good talk. And I pat him on the back. I don't remember going to sleep last night or waking up this morning. Maybe I didn't, but there are candles everywhere and everything is furry with dust, light, and halos. I was going to break the news to Danny that Sophie played softball, but I can't remember why I thought it was important. No, I do remember. Danny is in love with a white dyke, and that's just fun to say out loud. So I say it out loud, and I say it out loud and laugh, and no one else laughs 'cause they're all bummers. Lori is looking at me with those eyes, and Carrot calls me an asshole right on time and fuck him anyway. Carrot, Jeremy, thinks he's a hero. Gets hard on being the hero. Well, who the fuck ordered a hero anyways? Not me. Carrot, carrot, carrot cake. He just stands and sits and walks and tugs at his hair and still thinks there's some invisible escape hatch that's gonna pop open and surprise. Just kidding. It's sunshine and applesauce outside April Fools. Hold it together, guys, there's a way out of this. We just gotta finger fuck an elf or circle jerk each other with our combined hopes and dreams. Care Bear, SDARE, fuck him. And shame on the Rev for not shoving a boot up his scrawny ass day one. You let me down, Rev. You were supposed to be all Old Testament and smite this, smite that. You know what you are, Rev? I tell him. I tell them all, the whole damned congregation, I say. The Rev is a fucking impotent dad in a shitty 50s sitcom. Yeah. Wife ran off with a grifter and the collection plate, but it's all right 'cause Jesus gonna take the wheel and it's holy water enemas for everyone. Drink your tang, Billy. Tweed jacket and a pipe and a shaggy dog. I had high hopes. Son of a bitch even looks like Eastwood. Where's your tin star, Rev? Ain't this supposed to be a Western? Oh shit, now he's up. That's enough, Ted. The fuck it is. The fuck it is, holy man. I'm fine as paint. Idioms for the win, you know what? I saw Aubrey Adams do an anal scene with a priest on Pornhub and it broke my fuck it fuse. True story. Sun shining through stained glass windows, and this tattooed Father John has his donkey cock in his hand, and he looks guilty, right? Like he wasn't gonna fuck the braces right off her knee sock wearing schoolgirl act. Too much for this Catholic schoolboy, I tell you, sir. No, I got right down on my knees. I beat the shit out of myself over that one. Now I'm on the floor, and it's very red. I've been in a lot of low places, but I've never been decked by a pimp in a white choker. Holy shit, did you guys get that asshole's plates? And it's funny, but I'm the only one laughing. Again. And the Rev is just standing there above me looking like he just wiped his ass with his hand. Send in the fucking clowns, boys, send in the fucking clowns. I said that's enough, Ted. And holy, holy, holy shit, this is it. Welcome to the big top, check your coat, and get a load of this heavy-duty concentrated now. I've been good all year, and Santa makes good. I knew you had it in you, Rev, laughing with blood and spit on the floor, and it's so damned tasty. The rain booms through the roof and the oily light, and the reverb Doc Martin knockoff boots when Carrot makes for the Rev and grabs his arm. The way the Rev looks over his shoulder at the three girls hugging one another and getting weepy and they're scared of him, and Danny actually lifts his head off the table, and Carrot is gritting his teeth, and I want to sing. But there's black, a wave of black, and I'm swimming blind. Free at last. Friday night behind the bar, and Jeremy is thinking about Lori's asshole husband again, which is sad because for once she isn't. Lori is doing inventory and singing along with Elton John, while Jeremy polishes unused glasses and asks himself if he has the strength to actually kill a man and how he'd do it if he did. Jeremy isn't stupid. Jeremy knows he's in love with a married woman, and he knows enough to keep his mouth shut, and he does, but every time he catches her crying in the alley behind the bar, he thinks that this will be the day she cuts and runs, and he's ready. What kind of a man cheats on a woman like Lori? What kind of man cheats on any woman? A degenerate. Through grinding teeth, his father's word for the unemployed, for the frog whores strutting up and down Lisbon Street, for the money-grubbing Jews that own the mill now that a fucking Democrat was in office, degenerate, less than human. Jeremy could crush him like a spider, and no one would care, and no one would cry. He'd be her hero, and Jeremy would treat her like a queen and worship her with kind words and warm kisses. Jeremy would never look at another woman for as long as he. Corduroy sport coat and tartan vest with thirsty eyes. Gives a little wave, and Jeremy has no idea how long he's been sitting there just staring dead-eyed into a future fantasy that hinges on homicide. Sorry, man. I was off in La La Land. What can I get for you? And that's fine, man, no worries. Applejack on the rocks, keep the lime. And he makes it a double without asking cause. He knows the type, and they tip well. There you go, and it's gone, and damn if he doesn't look like he's giving thanks to God above. Jeremy pours another, without asking, and surveys the bar for anyone else he forgot. Lori pops behind the bar in her earbuds, in her own world, and brushes by him, counting silent numbers, fingers tracing the labels on each bottle as she passes. Black tank top and tattoos like sleeves, spiraling dragons and tigers with blue-black eyes, twin barbells, braless little girl breasts, and punk rock bikini kill blood red pigtails. She's a goddess, he thinks, and she smells like cinnamon and sea salt. The sad-eyed blonde at the end of the bar looks up from her phone long enough to smile weakly, tucks a strand of loose hair behind her ears. She must be pushing 50, and her makeup is like a melting bruise, but she bites her lower lip, and Jeremy almost says something, but then Lori is slipping away, and who is he kidding anyway? He's just a kid, and the cougar probably knows better what angels moan about when the lights go out. What does he have to offer anyway? A cracked futon and an electric stove, and a teapot that whistles like it's screaming. 3 pairs of jeans and 3 black button-downs with the name of the bar on the pocket, band T-shirts, and a guitar he can't play cause it's missing 3 strings. Student loans for a degree he can't use, and library books from 3 different libraries, cause there's no TV and no internet, but there is a view of the river, and he can move slow and be ever so gentle and fuck what the hell is happening up front. Jeremy drops the glass he's holding, but he doesn't hear it hit the tile floor because there is a girl with blood covering her eyes, and she's shrieking, "Get it off me. Get it off me." And a man, impossibly tall in a fedora, gray hat and a minister's, white suit like he just walked out of a revival meeting, is holding her back, and then he sees just past the open door and he wants to scream too. Lori runs out from the kitchen, pulling her earphones out, and says something, but Jeremy is over the bar and flying towards the door. Gotta close the door. That can't be real. That's just a dream I had when I was 12, and I was burning up, but it feels like the air is on fire, and there are shapes like trees falling into pink puddles and eyes on the ground, and... He slams the door shut, and all hell breaks loose. Lori and Carrot are watching me when I wake up, and there's a seat cushion under my head. They look pissed, and I almost remember why. Time travel. That's the cute name for blacking out around campus. What happened to you last night, Theodore? Were you time traveling? Yeah, I'm Dr. fucking Who. I've been here before, so I know the drill. I play dead even though I know they're on to me. Reflex pause my pockets for a cigarette, but of course they're gone. Fuck. How's your head, Ted? Lori isn't being funny. That circuit broke when the sidewalk screamed, She's just too exhausted to hear herself speak. I laugh for her. I don't know, it's a noisy place, dear. Give me a sec. And pull myself into an awkward sit. My head is an afterthought. Everything hurts. Everything is sore and out of alignment. And I'm still drunk, but I can think so a lot of time must have passed on the floor. How long? I ask Laurie because I hate Carrot and he won't make eye contact anyway, like he has a secret, and that's bullshit. Laurie shrugs and I know. She's right. Time is fungible in this version of real life, hard to track. Humans aren't designed for captivity, and our bodies run better on water and salt than liquor. A serious flaw, oh my creator, I shrug back, and that's all that happens for a long time. How long? Who knows? Half-drunk rats on a sinking ship, and we're all too tired to sleep. The Rev materializes and Carrot stands up between us, fulfilling his purpose. But there's nothing to worry about. His eyes man, Carrot breaks. What's wrong? And the Rev exhales so much sadness that I feel cold and close to sober. Daniel is dead. I think his heart, he just stopped breathing in his sleep. Carrot closes his eyes and words jump out of me without permission. Laurie's eyes shift. What did you say? And everything has stopped being funny, and I don't want to repeat myself, but I do because this is part of it too. I said, and then there were 6. The Rev gives me another dose of sorrow before turning and leaving the 3 of us where he found us. 13. My son is a piece of glass, part 2. Boo wasn't home, and he didn't answer his phone. Penny thinks that's for the best. Penny thinks I've had way too much of something to be taken seriously, and she wants to protect her father and her brother from a faux pas to remember. Penny thinks I should have some tea and lay down. She didn't say any of this out loud, but her tween telepathy is on point. When I staggered through the front door, she was on the couch in her bunny ear headphones and reading one of her manga. She hadn't said a word, and I was like a deer in her headlights. I suddenly felt caught in the act of something. I tried to play it off legit, emptied my pockets, and removed my boots in a drunken pantomime of nothing to see here sobriety. She looked through me with sad eyes, and I was ashamed. Honey, I'm home, I said, uncoupling my coat and my scarf. Is your brother here? I need to talk to him. Matter of fact, not drunk at all, sure. Her eyes had scanned me from nose to toe with a tired, wistful acknowledgement that she capped off with tightened tusk lips. Then she shook her head and put down her magazine. Go lay down, Dad. I'll heat up some water for tea, Kay. Fuck me harder, ye unfeeling gods. Shame me in the presence of my offspring. Tea is a code word and a remedy and a ritual in our clan. Tea is our default preservation routine when everything is close to shit but not quite there because the actions of making tea and then drinking tea necessitate a caesura, a pause, a stopgap between the entr'acte and the fat lady's song. Penny knows this, she's a pelletier. She has seen countless examples of her mother and I using tea as a way to forestall disaster. Tea is a calm down and a reset and a timeout chair all rolled into one. And while it won't render me sober, it will flood my system with caffeine and tannins, shore up some free radicals. In the very least, it will give her time to sort me out and prevent a flood. It occurs to me that my daughter is a protective dyke, and I giggle, shamefaced or not. I nod at her. I say, sure, that sounds nice, pet. Thanks. And I'm halfway up the stairs when I realize that I just used one of her late mother's nicknames. I pray she didn't notice, but of course she did. Add it to the list, Cameron. Add it to the fucking list. I piss and brush my teeth for no reason, and then I drop onto my bed, bury my face in my abused pillow. I reek of Canadian whiskey and failure. Erica breathes against my neck, but I don't stir. Cameron, Mousie, you're fucking it up, you know. You're a shit father, Cameron. You've always been a shit father and a shit husband. Go away, muffled into the pillow. Pathetic, why do you bother, Cameron? Why do you even bother? Penny hates you, you know, so does our little Boo Bear. That's why he didn't answer his phone. He doesn't want to talk to his drunk father. You disgust him. Shut up, Erica, bad kitty. Tell me why you killed her. Tell me why. I roll over to stare at the ceiling a little too quickly, and the room does a somersault over me. I close my eyes. No, I don't have time for you right now. Our daughter is making tea and I have to get a grip. Be a dad, be a living parent. I try to infuse my words with accusation, but she's laughing at me and it doesn't even sound like her. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe I'm reinventing her after all, turning her memory into an ethereal Grand Inquisitor. Erica was never mean. Erica was never so. Just tell me, Cam. I know how you did it. I know how you got away with it, too. She showed me. I need to know, WHY Cameron. All you've told me are stories, and stories are lies in your mouth. Tell me why you killed Andrea, and I'll go away for good. You can. No, a little too loud, and I sit up. I am defiance. I am a stubborn, reeking mess. I shake my head and rub my eyes. I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick, I say. I'm going to take a shower now. Sort yourself out, kitten. You're being a bitch. And so I do. The water is cold and I hate everything about it. It can't be helped. I need to break through the film. I need to feel goose pimples and rushing blood, and I need to clear my head. The water makes me anxious. It's hard to breathe. The soap smells like a urinal cake and I dry heave into the empty tub. She showed me. I knew it. I knew there was some sort of conversation going on somewhere. My dead wives are ganging up on me. Great. Naked in the aftermath, and I drag a comb through the mess of silver ringlets and pull it back into a pharaoh tail with one of Penny's pink elastics. I peek dubiously into the fogged-up mirror and sigh at the old man in the glass. My mustache and beard are out of control. I look like a castaway, one coconut shy of a fruit basket. I hum. I can do this. I drum my fingers on the crowded vanity. I rummage through the chaos of the cabinet beneath the sink and find a disposable razor still wrapped in plastic and an old can of Barbasol. It will do. There are scissors in the cabinet as well, and I start with those in order to give the plastic bic a fighting chance. 20 minutes later, I am still an old man, but I'm an after photo. I'm what the castaway looks like in his press release a week after rescue. I can do this, I think. I dress with my back to the bed. I pretend she isn't there. Penny is in the kitchen on a step stool, digging for something in a high cupboard. She cusses under her breath in a little girl's squeak. She cusses in French. She's too involved to notice me slip into the kitchen and take a seat at the cluttered table. I clear my throat. ESDC, que tu embrasses ta copine avec cette bouche. She freezes, slumps her shoulders but doesn't turn around. I don't have a girlfriend, Dad. Where the fuck is the honey? I laugh and it feels good. Finally, something feels good. My mistake, moan Petty Pirate. It's on top of the fridge. Penny climbs down, red in the face, and drags her stool across the kitchen to the fridge. She looks mad. It's adorable. Why am I a midget, Dad? Seriously. I shrug. Because Grand Pierre was a circus clown and Mimi was his petite chienne, you know that. Also, your mother drank too much coffee when she was pregnant with you. I told her not to, but I trailed off. But Mama didn't take crap from no froggy. MMMHM, that's right, not even this frog prince. Honey secured, Penny fidgeted with her tea, then sat across from me on her step stool. She looked dubious. You good? Loaded question, don't lie. Not really, but I'll make it. Trace of a smile, thanks for not lying. She nodded, sipped her tea. I sipped mine, ticking watch and house hum. Static, tinkle of tea spoon against cheap ceramic. Dad. Yes, Princess. You sure you're okay? You didn't get fired or anything. Odd. No, I did not. You know I work for myself, right? Odd question. She wrinkles her nose. Not really. You're day drinking a lot. Someone's gonna notice. And whatever is swirling in her tea is easier to look at than me. Oh, I say, and contemplate my own, slightly larger mug. I apologize, not for anything specific, because I'm not really sure what I should be apologizing for. Should I be sorry that I'm drinking, or that it's noticeable, or that she's worried about me drinking because it's noticeable? It isn't gossip. She's built like me in that way, zero fucks wasted on popular opinion, but she asked about my job. Is she worried that I'll collapse completely and take the farm with me? Should I apologize for scaring her? Should I be sorry that my 13-year-old daughter has to concern herself with her father's aberrant behaviors? All of it. Probably. I leave the blanket apology on the table. Then I change the subject. Have you seen your brother today? She shakes her head. The tips of her spirals are blood red. Hot Topic red. When did she do that? I wonder and I search her face for any new inconsistencies with my mental photo album. Gray eyes, freckles for days, silver horseshoe hanging from her septum. Nope, that's my little alternatot. Nice hair. Did you lose a bet? She rolls her eyes and blows across her teacup. Nah, just the lottery. And then she smiles for real and her teeth are perfect white fangs. Have you ever seen my dad? There's more banter, but there's no point in writing any of it down because it might as well be another language. The secret referential in-jokes of a single dad and his prematurely maturated girl child. I kept trying to steer the conversation back to her big brother, and she hit every subtle pitch into the outfield, which is probably significant. Either she's hiding something or acting like a buffer for reasons. Of course, there are always reasons. When the tea ritual was complete, we drifted into the living room, and she resumed weeping out. She replaced her headphones, and I thought briefly about my guitar before dismissing the idea as needlessly saccharine and nostalgic. I considered mixing a drink. The walnut cabinet above the ornamental fireplace winked at me like a hungry whore, but I decided against it. Penny would make a face. She would consider it an undoing of all her hard work, sacrilege to the rites of tea and check-in. Instead, I scrolled through my phone and checked for any missed calls or messages. I get a lot of spam from life insurance companies these days, which only proves that the AI that monitors our daily lives is morbid and tactless. I hit the useless block number option out of habit. There was a missed call from my dentist and a voicemail attached that I deleted without bothering to listen. I have terrible teeth, and they make me self-conscious and twitchy. I rarely smile. Fuck dentists. One day I'll just rip out whatever teeth I have left and subsist on creative applications of gel. Oh. There was nothing from my agent, which was a relief but not a surprise. Drunkenness is an art form, and I am Jackson fucking Pollock with a dash of Warhol thrown in for good measure. I'm a professional genius. Penny might be worried, but I'm not. Not really. I've been doing this for a long time, and my autopilot is a champ. There's still no response from Boo, so I try his phone again and leave another message inviting him to dinner. I try to sound chill without sounding chilly, which is the last thing I want him to worry over. I pray to God that he's just busy or else picking up on his sister's fears, and not that he thinks I'm indifferent to him, that I just don't care. There's a balance to be struck here. I need him to feel wanted, but not in a sloppy way only one of us will remember tomorrow. I put down my phone and blow air through my teeth. I really wish I could whistle. In the grand catalog of my regrets and woes, my inability to whistle is where my come-down brain settles itself, and I'm glad. I love 21st century white boy problems. I don't remember drifting off, but I was on a fishing boat just offshore, and the ocean was wicked pissed off. I was dimly aware that it was a dream because I could hear Damon Albarn singing about park life in the background, which was one of Penny's newly discovered jams. The little boat my couch was rocking back and forth like the Sea Dragon at Funtown, USA, and my pants were soaked through and cold. Did I piss myself? No, I'm dreaming, all's good. But it wasn't all good because the boat was really rocking and there was no one in the captain's seat. I was alone and at the mercy of the North Atlantic. I'm going to drown alone. No more Cameron. No more needy ghosts or children to disappoint. If there's a hell, I'll see you soon, Ma. Dada. Boo's the only one who calls me Dada. That's Boo, shaking, rescuing me. Damn, the kid smells like dope. What I said was, Arak, and I convulsed like a man falling off an impossibly high ledge into consciousness. It's difficult to recover pre-dream zeal when you're ripped unceremoniously from one reality into another. Even the prosaic familiarity of my living room was a system shock, mostly because I wasn't dying and it was warm, very warm and dry. Boo was looking at me with anxious eyes, and I was suddenly very sober and very self-conscious. I growled a bit. I'm running towards 50. I'm allowed to growl every now and then. Got him, Knit Boo. What the fuck? I shook my head and heard Penny laugh from somewhere nearby. My vision was still fogged up by the sea foam and salt water dream grog. Boo grinned, but I could tell he was embarrassed. Penny was younger, but she was the bolder and more self-assured sibling. Boo was sensitive, gentle, shy even. Boo wouldn't intentionally spook anyone or draw attention to himself. His eyes were enormous winter chestnuts like his mother, and they were quivering. I sat up and softened. Christ, boy, you could have killed me. Fetch your dad a drink, will you? You scared me sober. Boo nodded and disappeared into the kitchen for a glass. Penny frowned but said nothing, just resumed her manga and cranked the volume on her phone. Her ears must be bleeding, I thought, remembering the dream that was only half a dream. I can hear every guitar lick from across the room. What's the point of headphones? If I asked her, she'd shrug and say, "They're cute, Dad, and they are so shut up, Cameron, your son is home." Wasn't there something you wanted to say to him? Yes, but that was before he was here and real and I had been maudlin then. Now I'm disoriented by the mix of adrenaline and lack of ethanol. For the first time since I came downstairs, I can hear Erica's voice and she's laughing. It's not a nice laugh. Boo returns with a mug and a heavy pour of black velvet. Damn, son, bad news coming. Boo's real name is something ridiculous, Erica, and I came up with one night early in her pregnancy. I was drunk, and we were both giddy. I can't remember whose idea it was, and it doesn't matter because it didn't stick. I'm not even sure if Penny is consciously aware that her brother has a real name. No one outside the family knows, I'm certain. We never called him anything other than Boo, or, if we're being formal, Boo Bear. He had been a minute old, covered in Erica's insides, latched on to her swollen tit, and she'd said, "He's a hungry little Boo Bear, isn't he?" And that was that. He has a birth certificate somewhere and a tiny collection of official documentation, but even his school transcripts say Boo James Pelletier. He doesn't have a driver's license. I believe I mentioned that already. Names are funny things. I don't put much stock in the nurture half of nature versus your parents' bullshit quotient, because I've seen too many adoptions fail miserably despite the best of intentions. You see a lot of Yankee bobbies raised by their nanas and their mimis. You watch them grow up to be the same sort of hot mess their junky drunk parents were when they lost custody. Genetics scream louder than Sunday school more often than not, but names are an exception. Children grow into their names on a metaphysical level that makes zero sense, but look around and tell me I'm wrong. Brian's are assholes, Jessica's are dangerous, so are Andy's and Dylan's. Michael's a bit wild and Jenny's are straight up crazy, Erica's are solid and they stick around. Boy, do they ever. Boo never got a chance to live up to his name because we didn't let him. If we had, his defining characteristics would be vastly different, I'm sure. Instead, he got wrapped around Harper Lee's invisible man with all of his tragic mystery and misfortune. I remember telling Erica that we'd cursed him with a life defined by other people's actions and doomed him to be forever misunderstood. He was 9 or 10 at the time and having a hard time with bullies. Nothing physical, Boo was too solid to knock over, but he had a lisp, and he was kind, which caused him endless trouble. His peers were all middle-class monsters high on Adderall, and Boo took a lot of abuse without breaking. He cried in his room at night. A lot. It was heartbreaking. Erica didn't understand what I meant because she'd never suffered through To Kill a Mockingbird, so I told her my theory about names, and she'd laughed, told me I was crazy. He's an Aquarius too, Cam. Oh my God, what have we done? I had laughed too, but I knew better. I've only ever met one other Cameron, and he was a real piece of shit. Poor Boo. I just keep fucking you up, don't I? He's nervous about something. That much is obvious. He's doing that thing with his hands that Erica excelled at, and it's uncanny. Learned behavior. He wants to say something, but he's worried that I might not be in the proper chemical balance to receive it. I recognize the face because the face and the hands are a matching set. I can almost hear his brain making measurements and calculations. Is Dad too drunk? Is he drunk enough? Will he remember this conversation? Do I want him to remember this conversation? I'd help him out, but I have no idea what he's sitting on. All I can do is wait for him to decide to either make his move or abort and regroup. It's a familiar dance. Whiskey in a jam jar, and I make conversation like a father does or should. I'm relieved by the atmospheric shift because it puts a hold on my messy emotional needs. I can put on my official function hat and detach from my inner rot and roiling. It's liberating. I can be Oz the Great because playing Dad is so much easier than being Dad, and I'm a damned good play actor. I am a bullshit virtuoso. Look at me. Look how good I am at this, boys and girls. Pay no attention to the insecure puddle of jelly quivering behind the veil. I was falling down and into myself, but now I'm here and his needs make it okay to pretend none of that actually happened. Somewhere in the middle of our small talk, he clears his throat, and this happens. Boo, Dad. Me, son. Boo, would it be okay if a friend moved into the basement with me? Not like forever, just for a little. Me, how little? Boo, I don't know, a few weeks, a month. Me, a month. Boo, maybe longer, maybe till summer. Me, are we talking about a girl? Boo, yeah, Casey Donovan, she's. Me, I know who she is. Penny, I thought you were gay. Boo, shut up. Penny, make me. Me, stuff it, both of you. Boo, are you telling me that you and Casey are a thing? Boo, nods. Me, Al Donovan's daughter. Boo, yeah. Me, fuck. Penny, holy shit, but she's. Me, Penny, go find somewhere else to be. Penny, a fucking 8th grader. Me, go, now. Jesus Christ, Boo, are you fucking with me? Because if you're fucking around with me, please tell me before I rupture something. Casey Donovan is 14 years old. Boo, she's 15, she. Me, no, 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 no. You don't get to play like that. Please. Please, God, tell me I didn't raise an idiot. Please tell me you're not fucking a minor, that you're not actually asking for my blessing to fuck a minor in my house. Boo, Dad, I. And then he was sobbing. Just fucking great. 14. Everything in its place. I like little girls. I'm not weird about it. I'm not a pedophile. I'm not sexually attracted to prepubescent children. I'm not a schoolyard predator. In fact, I don't do anything but engage in harmless fantasy and watch a lot of legal, barely legal teen porn. Judging by the sheer volume of petite, teeny, stepdaughter, schoolgirl content available online, I'm confident that I'm not the only one. Fetishizing youth isn't a 21st century phenomenon after all. It's a tale as old as the patriarchy. Older men like younger women for a variety of reasons. Teen porn is a function of our biology versus the modern enlightened age. It's what happens when society straitjackets a man's primal attraction to the young and fertile. Feminists of varying stripes disagree. That's fine. I'm not a feminist. Both Andy and Erica were tiny little things, as was that girl. And since we're being honest, you might as well know that rounds out the significant sexual history of Cameron Jean Pelletier. I have a lot of regrets, but I've never slobbered over a fat girl or taken home a high-mileage merry-go-round for a test drive, and I call that a win. I have a type and I'm fine with that. I've never needed sex enough to lower my aesthetic standard. And I don't care what people think anymore. I can if I'm going to exercise my dead wife effectively. Erica could sniff out bullshit when she was alive, and now she has a backstage pass, so there's no benefit in being pretty or proper. What's the point of wearing a mask anyway? What's the point of a secret self? Do you think my wife didn't know how to drive her husband crazy? She knew. She had a drawer filled with knee socks and a box of butterfly barrettes for when she'd wear her hair in pigtails and call me daddy. She could diffuse a nuclear storm front with a sundress and ribbons, and I just don't care anymore. I don't care what you know or what you think of me. Every year I lose more and more containment. Every year my walls get thinner and I spend less and less time patching the holes. I'm tired. I don't care if you think I'm a pig. I don't care if I make you sick with my morbid self-attention or my unrepentant alcoholism, and I don't give a shit if you think my kinks are repulsive. I like baby dolls and baby girls and pretty pets in braids. I like how big their dewy eyes get when I lick their little bald bunnies. Go ahead and cancel me. Wave a flag if it makes you feel better about yourself. You want to pass judgment on me for admitting what your pastor and your guidance counselor woe, what your safely neutered husband woe. Go ahead. What goes on behind my eyes is the least of my sins. I'm a killer, remember that? The ghost doesn't care what I jerk off to, and neither should you. We're well past damnation. I don't tell my son any of this. My son is one of the few left standing who gets the Hollywood edit because whatever humanity I have left is defined by him and by his sister. I don't make a habit of lying to my kids or hiding things from them. I don't censor or edit myself often, but there are scenes that never play out in front of them, and that is by design. I don't care what my neighbors think because my neighbors don't take their cues from me. My kids still do. They don't make me a better man, but they do hold me in a tidal lock that prevents terminal descent. They don't make me good, but they are a mirror, the only one I can never escape. And when I look into them, I want to see only the better parts of me taking root. Point of fact, I don't watch porn with my son. We don't compare top 10 lists. Seriously, do people actually do that? Sick. Casey Donovan was top shelf illegal. Eye candy and Boo should have left her there. I wasn't just disappointed with him, I was furious, and he could tell. He knew how big he'd fucked up, and he knew there was nothing he could say that could possibly justify his crossing the line between dreams and consequence. He sat there on our couch and he wept because he was afraid of what he'd done, and because he knew that he'd lost too much blood to come back from this one. He shook. He trembled. He was a dead man walking, and it pissed me off because I loved him. He sniffled and leaked out a few details, none of which were revelations, and I refilled my drink twice, steaming with my jaw clenched. The girl was probably pregnant. She hadn't taken a test because she was terrified that someone would find it and that would mean trouble. That was what she'd told Boo, at least. If I had to guess, I'd say that it was the reality of her situation that she was avoiding. Not knowing meant it wasn't real. If it was real, she'd have to face it, and there certainly would be trouble. Classic rookie move. If I close my eyes, they can't see me. Peekaboo. Daddy's gonna be so mad. No shit, princess. Boo wanted her to come here and hide out. He had no plans past that. He'd regressed into scared little boy mode and run home to his dada, who is wise and all-powerful. Not so much little prince. Sorting out clusterfuckery is only dada's hobby, and these days he's not winning any blue ribbons. It hit me, suddenly and with terrifying clarity, that he didn't actually realize how fucked up the situation really was, and he really thought that I could fix it, that bringing the girl here would be smart and safe because I would protect them both from fallout. Sweet Jesus. Remember when I said that I liked playing Oz the Great and all-powerful? I lied. This is all wrong. So damned wrong. The girl's father was a fisherman who I'd been drinking next to for years. The fact that Boo was still breathing was proof positive that Al Donovan was blissfully unaware of his daughter's extracirculars. Al was a good guy for a pirate, but Casey was 15, and if I remembered correctly, his only child. His only daughter. In the eyes of the law, Boo was a rapist, and in the eyes of her fisherman father, that would justify vigilante justice. Al would chop my son into little pieces and stuff him into bait bags for the sea bugs to feast on. If Boo had consciously registered these details, he had an inflated view of my data superpowers. I said, "She can't come here, Boo. She's a minor, and unless she's able to convince a judge that she's in danger at home, she can't emancipate herself in time to save your life. The cops would come collect her, and then Al and his buddies would come to collect you. Me too, most likely." Boo sniffled, deflated. "But Dad..." I shook my head. "No, won't work. You can't hide from this. The best we can hope for is that you won't end up in jail or in a lobster trap, and the only way we can manage that is to play things straight as fuck." He squirmed. "Erica, where the hell are you when I actually need you? Okay, I can do this." "Boo, listen to me. This is what we're going to do. I am capable of many things. I am smarter than your average mouse, and I'm good at damage control. You have to be when you time travel as much as I do. I'd love to tell you that this situation was the deepest hole I'd ever had to climb out of, but that would be a lie. It was, however, the first time I'd ever had to create an exit strategy for someone else, and that hurt my head. Nothing prepares you for this subgenre of parenthood. I suddenly felt like a tired, down-east version of Michael Corleone having to sort out family business in order to prevent a bloody turf war. It wasn't a good feeling. The gravity made it hard to breathe. The plan wasn't elegant, and I wasn't optimistic, but it was a plan, and it went like this. Penny would become besties with Casey overnight. Penny would approach her at school and tell her the plan and that she had a choice: play along or go straight to Daddy and confess playing the teenage whore. This was the first big risk. If Casey thought for a moment that she could win over her daddy by coming clean straight out the gate, we were screwed. Worst case scenario, she quakes before his righteous rage and starts making excuses. He told me he loved me. He told me it was gonna be all right, that sort of thing, which would sign Boo's death warrant. No, she had to play along and become BFFs with Miss Penny Lane Pelletier. They needed to become inseparable, and they would need to sell it on the schoolyard. That would be phase 1. In phase 2, Casey would have Penny over for a sleepover and ingrain the friendship in Al Donovan's salty head. Phase 3, Penny would invite Casey over to play Minecraft or make TikTok videos or whatever middle school girls do at a sleepover, and what could be more natural at that point? Nothing at all, ladies and gentlemen. It's important to note that my daughter hated the plan. It's equally relevant to mention that I didn't give her a choice. You want your brother to die or rot in prison for 20 years? No, then suck it up, princess. Put on your china flats. Pull it off and I'll buy you a pony. Once Casey's in the house, she'll take a pregnancy test and will know one way or another the status of her womb. Boo will not be present. In fact, Boo will be visiting his Auntie Bijou for an indeterminate amount of time. I will purchase the pregnancy test, endure the who is the old drunk banging now gossip, and Penny will lend whatever emotional support is needed to piss on a stick. If she's pregnant, I will talk to Al and broker some sort of peaceful resolution. I'll pay whatever bride price, make whatever blood sacrifice is required to save my son from jail and the deep blue sea. I will be penitent and approach in humility. If she's not pregnant, then Boo and Casey will agree to ignore each other for no less than 3 years, both on and off the record. No exceptions. Lord, listen to this heathen's prayer. Boo is not impressed. Penny is also miffed. I don't care. Boo seems to think I could do better, come up with some scenario where he gets to cuddle his jailbait to sleep, but that is not in the cards. I tell him, if you want my help, we do it my way. I warn you, do not go rogue. You've made a very large mess, son. This is your best chance of getting through it. At least the beginning of it. If the little girl is preggers, then we have all manner of new and exciting nightmares ahead of us. But I don't dwell on that. It serves no purpose. There is no use in anticipation or fretting over what may come with the morrow. That isn't wisdom so much as how I sleep at night. That, and enough liquor to kill a petting zoo pony. I tell Boo and Penny to go to bed. They have their marching orders. I follow my son to the cellar stairs, and I put my hand on his shoulder. I do not tell him I love him. I'm too tired and too angry for sentimentality or compassion. I tell him not to leave the house tonight or the next day. I tell him to stay put and to think wicked hard about the shitty choices he's been making. I tell him how disappointed I am in him, and I don't hate myself at all for saying it. I want him to be frightened and penitent and small. I want him to be silent and still and obedient, and that's because I do love him and because beneath my anger I am shitting myself. In my room, and I can smell the terror sweat leaking out of me, an acrid metallic stink. I strip off my clothes and sit naked on the edge of my bed. It's too damn hot and stale in here. Outside is late October and it's cold and I don't care. I open the window beside my bed and let the chill wash over my wet skin. There is an ashtray in the nightstand drawer for emergencies when I grant myself permission to break the no smoking indoors rule. Once upon a time, it was our after-sex cigarette ashtray, but now it's just an exception to a self-imposed standard. I don't want to get dressed. I don't want to go downstairs or outside. I just want to breathe in cold air and warm smoke and breathe out the fear and tension and bullshit. Let it drift out the open window when the wind exhales. I can sense Erica packing, but she doesn't speak, and that's a good thing. I'm not in the mood. I have a headache. I'm on the raggy take your pick. I don't have it in me to purge or share or decorticate myself for anyone's pleasure, not even for the insistent ghost of my dead wife. She knows. I can tell. She knows me better than anyone. I crush out the cigarette and lay naked on top of the covers. I picture Casey Donovan naked, and I hate myself for getting hard. I imagine my fingers fumbling with the buttons on Andy's blouse when we were kids. I hear her whispering, "Go fetch." I think of Erica dancing naked in the farmhouse living room before Boo or Penny taught us to fuck with the mute button on, and I think about the way she'd tease me when I was angry. How she'd distract me by purring into my ear. I stroke myself and it's okay. I tell myself it's okay. I whisper to the ghost, "I'm angry, pet. Can you fuck it out of me?" There are no words, but there is weight, and I come into the dream. I am not ashamed. From the Author's Journal, 2021. We are so damned sure that there is a reason or an answer or a cause for everything, and I'm sure there is. I believe in a thermodynamic universe, and I'm Catholic enough to believe there is, probably, a first cause that sets the infinity of rubber balls on their infinite probable trajectories. I'm not comfortable putting God in a box, so I don't. I focus my attention on the little triggers that derail us or delay us en route to the end zone instead. I've made a career out of putting pins in people's maps and saying, see, here, where shit went wrong for you, baby girl, right here. I think we look for reasons because we're hardwired to believe in structures that serve a purpose. We don't like random, we don't like disorder, we don't like just because. We don't. Even anarchists are afraid of anarchy, the same way nihilists are afraid of the dark. And it's okay because the more we magnify chaos, the more fractal the universe reveals itself to be. The difficulty, for many of us, is that we conflate reasons with blame. And if reasons and causes are divinely inspired and completely natural, then blame is the artificial perversion we came up with because we were just as hardwired to want an enemy that isn't ineffable. An enemy we can crush beneath the boot of our self-actualization. I used to believe that every tragic human flaw had a genesis point we could identify if we looked hard enough. I used to be an idealistic child who suffered from the delusion that I could save the race of women from self-imposed sadness. I used to believe in cartoon physics, real Bugs Bunny shit. That's what kept me going, the ludicrous assurance that I could walk past the cliff's edge and just tread air. Maybe that's an exaggeration. Maybe. When I met E, I believed in 3 related truths that formed the basis of my pubescent worldview. The first was that psychosis is an aberrant or unnatural state or condition. The second was that all psychoses have a natural cause that is either internal, biological, external, environmental, or some combination of the two. The third truth I believed, and this was the heart of my nascent idiom, was that the natural, sane condition of man is a more powerful entity than the natural causations of our psychoses, that our factory settings, in fact, have gravity. 15. Breaker. I'm done caring about how pretty I sound. I was scrolling back through these notes and I'm embarrassed by the timidity of the first few pages. Who the fuck cares if I can write the great American novel? This was never going to be the great American novel. This is just a secular prayer for silence, that's all it is. I don't need to get it right, I just need to get it done. There are distractions. I spent nearly an hour trying to convince Penny to talk to me today. I stood outside her room and talked at the door. Then I sat and talked at the door. I started filibustering. Christ, I even sang a handful of songs, the ones I used to sing her to sleep with when she was just a little pink furry jelly bean. No dice. She wouldn't respond. This is my paycheck for pulling her into her brother's mess. This is the morning after when you fiddle through your phone and pray to God you didn't text the wrong person your half-mad musings on life, the universe, and everything. I remember the night after I came home from my little timeout in rehab. I'd showed up at my friend Andrew's apartment with 2 bottles of gas station wine and suggested we go throw rocks and curses into the ocean. It might sound strange to you, but growing up in coastal Maine, you throw a lot of rocks into the sea. It's therapeutic. Sometimes the rocks are prayers or wishes. Sometimes they're the angry words you can't throw at people. We drove through the national park that envelops our little tourist trap town until we reached the seawall at the southwestern edge of the island. And there, we made our stand. We pulled from our respective bottles of fortified grape juice and screamed profanities at God and whatever mortals had recently pissed us off. I screamed at Andy. I lobbed smooth beach stones the size of crab apples into the churning blue-black tide until my arm was sore. When the wine was gone, we threw our bottles into the sea and headed for the nearest bar. The last thing I remember was telling the girl behind the bar that I was celebrating my upcoming divorce, and there had been a barfly cheer of some sort underscoring her I couldn't care less buddy grin. Then it was morning. The dark side of time travel is data retrieval. When I opened my eyes, I was on floor level in an unfamiliar kitchen. The linoleum was cold against my face, and my body was bent in an unnatural question mark shape, contoured around the crowded kitchenette's toy stove and butcher block island. I was glued to the floor with whiskey spit. I was stiff and sore. I was also cuddling a very large orange traffic cone, clutching it to my chest like a kid with a teddy bear. I was perplexed but not alarmed, and I suppose that speaks volumes to the sort of life I'd built myself. Waking up on the floor, even in a strange environment, wasn't unusual or cause for alarm. It was a mystery I'd solve eventually. I put it off for later and sat up, checking my pockets for my keys, my wallet, and my cigarettes, all present and accounted for. I passed out in my jacket and shoes, which was convenient. There are very few things more irritating than having to follow breadcrumbs back through time in search of. The cone was something new. Sitting on the floor of this tiny alien kitchen, it occurred to me that I'd never seen such a large specimen. It was a really big traffic cone. In fact, it was exactly the sort of real-life anomaly that would have caught my eye and inspired larceny, piss drunk or not. That struck me as funny. I thought, thank God I'm consistent. My head was thick, but it didn't hurt so much as it seemed to slosh about on my neck. Balance was an issue. I discovered that when I finally stood up, only to trip over the abnormally large cone and fall face first into the wall. I caught myself, shook myself out, and played it cool. No one was watching, but I still played it cool because you never know, right? First things first, where the hell am I? Question, does it even matter? Answers, no clue and no, not really. I picked up the cone and found the exit. Outside, the air was cool and crisp. I sniffed the air and got my bearings. I knew where I was. I was one town over across the island, and there was plenty of time to get home before. Before what? I didn't have a job or a wife waiting. I had nothing but a traffic cone and spliced memories. Paul, I thought, Paul needs me, but that was bullshit. Paul was a rat and he didn't need anything. Paul was low maintenance in extremis, which was why he'd survived the apocalypse of Andy and my subsequent nuclear winter of the soul. I carried my cone to the side of the road and hooked out my thumb. Someone would give me a ride, I thought, and eventually someone did. The trailer smelled like single and 20-something. It was tidy, everything was still boxed and stacked, but it reeked of stale booze and stale sweat and dead cigarettes. I acknowledged Paul and checked to see if my dad had paid the phone bill. There was a dial tone. Thanks, Dad. Data retrieval was a bitch in the late 90s. A bitch and a blessing. We didn't have cell phones and social media to backtrack through. The trails we left behind were more subtle and required interviews with real humans in real time. I phoned Andrew. He did not pick up, which wasn't weird then because none of my friends had answering machines. Who did? And unlike me, I knew he still had a job. I sat on the couch in my deconstructed living room and pondered the cone. Where in the hell did I find you, buddy? There was a bottle of Gordon's stuffed under one of the couch cushions, and I pulled from it wistfully. There were scratches up and down both of my arms clotted with dried blood. What the hell did I fall into last night, center cone? I'm not sure why I made the cone Mexican, but I did, and it fit somehow. Was that a whisper print? A trace? Fucked if I knew. I must have drifted off because it was early evening when I suddenly needed to piss, and consciousness flooded back through me in a rage. I shook a few more drops out of the bottle, pissed for an hour it seemed, then tried Andrew again. This time he picked up and I was relieved. Hey Broski, what the hell did we get into last night? Sometimes our errors in judgment make amusing next-day anecdotes. Sometimes those anecdotes evolve into stories that we tell or get told again and again because they underline the absurdity of our lives in an amusing way. Sometimes when we're unplugged from memory, we burn the world down and there are dire consequences. It's a crapshoot. You can't trust the time traveler. That guy's a wild card. Andrew was pissed and he wouldn't say why. Andrew wasn't just pissed. Andrew told me to fuck off and to stay fucked off, which was bad. Really bad. In the pantheon of Cameron and Andy's combined friend sphere, Andrew was one of the few who were on Team Cameron. Pruning the friend tree was not a wise decision in my current unemployed, lost and alone state. He hung up the phone and I stood there, my eyes fixed on the traffic cone. My brain refused to reconcile either. So much for next day anecdotes. Penny is mad at me and I'm not entirely sure why. I have only the vaguest of impressions, snippets of her discontent, to work with. In my defense, I've been on autopilot for days while my operational consciousness has been preoccupied with DEFCON scenarios. I've been drunk and afraid and wired and busy like a beaver being drunk and wired and afraid. I've made lists, inquiries, battle plans. I've worn grooves in the hardwood packing back and forth. And for what? Nothing. No reason at all. The nightmare child turned out to be nothing but a late period, most likely stress-related, which is tragic really. It breaks my heart in two. Casey got on board with the plan and Penny played her part admirably. Boo was relocated to my sister's, and I bought not one, not two, but 3 home pregnancy tests which I gave Penny to distribute over the span of 3 separate sleepovers. The girls giggled nerves upstairs, while I bathed in gin and brandy and Red Bull on the ground floor. I did not impose myself on the girls during these special visits, and I certainly never let my eyes linger on Miss Donovan's, rather revealing PJS going up and down the stairs. I made snacks and left them alone to sort things out. 1, 2, 3 times a lady negative, deep breathing all around. The real touchdown came when Penny came home from school one day and informed me that her BFF had started bleeding in gym class. Praise Jeebus. I celebrated V-Day by sleeping straight through the weekend. I collapsed out of an endorphin high into the booze reservoir and just stayed there. It was restorative, blissful even. I remember dreaming that the universe was light and airy for the first time since Erica died, and that all my neighbors commented on my springy step. Who knows what's real and what's a dream anymore? Who cares? The little slice of heaven was not carrying my son's child, and I didn't have to do anything. Liberation. Blessed liberation. But now Penny was pissed, and I feel like I should know why. I feel like I've missed something vital, and it's maddening. I'm writing a new story. Talking to the door again. Some really dark shit doodlebug. Everyone dies in the end. At least I think so. Haven't gotten there yet. I've been distracted by, well, you know. I can hear music muffled by earphones. I'm gonna make some tea and maybe some dinner. Feel free to come out and eat and stuff. K good talk, princess. Downstairs again, and my happy thoughts are gone again. That's the way drugs and orgasms work, kids. The high always melts away. The ghost has been silent for days. She offered no comfort or solace while I sweated and froze and reheated again. She hadn't balked at my silence or chided me for being a rotten father. I had almost, not quite, but almost forgotten that the house was haunted. Puttering around my kitchen, it occurred to me for the umpteenth time that Erica was dead, and these conversations are probably just phantoms in my cottage cheese brain. Delusions. Waking dreams made of guilt I didn't know I still felt. It makes me angry to think like that. It makes me angry because I can't decide and I hate uncertainty. I told Penny that I was working on a new story, and that's almost true. It would have been more accurate to say that I'm always working on a new story, that my whole fucking life is just a story in progress, and that for whatever reason I document the process. I could have told her about hearing her mother's voice, and how I've been pouring out loose fragments of my timeline into weak, poorly structured words in a non-linear and completely batshit manner. But I didn't. I didn't because it's possible that I'm not crazy and that whatever seems sane is actually the fiction. How's that for nonsense? Don't worry, I'm aware. Erica, dearest, did I ever tell you why I joined the pep band in high school? No, of course I didn't. I never told her anything about then. I've never shared any of these things, these episodes in what I'm beginning to think of as my very episodic life. Maybe that's just the way memory works after so many years. You forget the in-betweens and the organic flow of one day into another. Looking back, and all I can find are grave markers and signposts buried in the sand. Life isn't a collection of watersheds, victories, and tragedies. But memory makes it seem like it is because all the filler gets dumped like slag and washed away. Maybe that's why biographies make ordinary men seem like giants. I am not a giant. I'm not even remotely remarkable. I was an unremarkable child and an invisible teenager. Which is true for the most part. It also sounds like a crackerjack way to start a biopic narration. I was bright and a good student who never squeaked or acted out, and that much is true. I was an under-the-radar kid sitting in the middle row, usually by the window, between the loud look-at-me attention whores and the JR fishermen in the back of the room who wore metal t-shirts reeking of weed and bait. My father, the gruff James Pelletier, had a significant amount of street cred on the docks, so no one ever bullied me for being small or quiet. No one called me faggot or four eyes. I don't think anyone really noticed me at all, which was fine. I wasn't particularly shy or timid, I just liked the quiet. Years later, at our 20th class reunion, a very tipsy adult version of the town tramp pulled me aside and confessed that all the girls had thought I was cute back in the day. All curls and eyes, she'd said, touching my hair, pressing her not quite as slim as it once was body into mine. When I asked her why no one ever said anything to me about it, she'd shrugged, downed her drink and said, "Andrea." Then she'd wandered off to drip on someone with less death hanging over him. Fair enough. Andrea Robertson, she was Andy to me quite yet, had decided, for reasons all her own, to mark me, and she had made that clear to the rest of the female student body. Evidently. Of course I didn't know it, and Andy had been a patient predator. I never saw her coming. I never imagined I was in anyone's sights. I just went to class, did my work, and nipped from a bottle in my locker between classes. Oh yes, I was already a dutiful debaser. I was sitting by myself on the floor of the arts wing, looking out into the school's courtyard, just killing time between classes when the first strike came. I was minding my own business, tending to my own thoughts when Andy happened by in a group of girls. Cheerleader girls, you understand. The devil is in the details. I say happened to, but that was a before perception. Moving through the years, I learned that Andy never happened to be anywhere or doing anything. She moved with purpose. She calculated. Andy never wandered, she was never aimless, but she was damned good at appearing spontaneous, and she had mad skills faking surprise. It sounds more and more like I'm painting a monster, but she was. She was just solid. Andy was capable of warmth and affection and genuine care and concern. She didn't fake love or hate or any emotion for that matter. Andy was genuine, and that's very important to bear in mind. As Charles Dickens once wrote, "This must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful can come of the story I am going to relate." If she was a grand master, a general, and a puppeteer, it was only because she believed in getting what she wanted and doing what she did. Andy was never petty or small. She could be terrifying, though. True story. Andy had stopped, turned to face me, and then with uncanny familiarity she'd said, "Hey, Pelletier, you still play clarinet?" Which was unexpected and off-book, surreal even. Andrea Robertson was not only beautiful, she outclassed me. She was from a wealthy family and she was popular. Cute or not, I was nobody. I was the quiet son of a scallop diver whose clothes never fit right and whose glasses were too big and forever slipping off my nose. I was also a bookworm and a nerd. That any of the beautiful people would know my name, let alone that I'd played clarinet in junior high, was highly suspect. Perhaps I was on the reboot of Candid Camera. Maybe she'd lost a bet. I think I smiled. I said, I haven't lately. Why?" She'd rolled her eyes, I remember that. I remember thinking that it was sexy the way she did it. She didn't look like an annoying teenage girl. She looked like one of Mr. Ziegfeld's French Follies girls in a green and white cheerleading sweater. She glittered. When she smiled at me, she looked hungry and delicious at the same time. "Band is boring," she cooed. "There are no cute guys in our section. Actually, there aren't any guys in our section." Then she'd lean down and put her face in front of mine. She smelled like lilacs. "You should join thee in band and sit next to me, be my arm candy. You can protect me on long, boring bus trips. Sound good to you?" She fluttered her eyes at me like a cartoon character. My brain short-circuited. I could see her pink lace bra down the front of her sweater, and all I could smell was lilacs. I nodded, said sure, and she kissed my cheek. "Good," she chirped, rejoining her giggling clutch of friends. "We eat our lunch in the band room. I'll tell Mr. D that he has a fresh mind to mold. See ya there." Then she was gone, evaporated like a wet dream. "I didn't know you played the clarinet, Mousie." "Oh, there you are. Our son commits statutory rape and you bug out, but holy shit, my husband was a band geek. Jesus Christ, Erica. Prioritize much. So you joined the band because a cheerleader told you to." Yes, and what's wrong with that? Consider the collective history of mankind, and you tell me. You bat your eyes and kings are forged. You toss your Monets and entire nations go to war. Andrea Robertson kissed my cheek, and that evening I dug out my beat to shit beginner band clarinet and reminded myself how it worked. I must have played Hot Cross Buns and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star 1,000 times before my father banged on the wall and reminded me that some people had to work in the morning. My lungs and my lips hurt, but I didn't care. I fell asleep and dreamed of glittering can-can girls in pleated skirts. We didn't date, not at first, but I did sit next to her on the band bleachers. We didn't pass notes or hold hands, that came later, but I did become her puppy dog, and it gave me direction. More importantly, it made me self-aware. I let my hair grow out because she liked playing with it. I got new glasses, delicate rimless things, because she said they suited my watery gray eyes. I tossed my wardrobe and let her take me shopping, which made her squeal and laugh and clap her hands outside the changing room. She redesigned me, dressed me, and it was wonderful because I'd never had an ideal image of myself. You were her pet, her paper doll. Yes, I was, but I was also more than that. Andy wasn't amused by me, she needed me. Love is like that, or at least it can be. We complemented each other by being exactly what each other needed most. Heather the head shrinker would probably call that kind of codependency unhealthy, but what do therapists know anyway? Psychology is like any science. It works on paper and in textbooks within the confines of focus groups and contained experiments, but in real life. In the great wide open fields, where we eat and sleep and fuck and carry on. Psychology isn't a practical discipline because the human animal isn't homogeneous. Andy gave me what I needed, and giving it to me fulfilled her own need. Healthy? Didn't matter, because at the end of the day I was happier because of her, and I know she loved me, and that her love wasn't fake or hollow. You still love her. Oh my God, you still. I don't believe it's possible to stop loving someone once that imprinting has occurred. I think love leaves a tattoo on our soul. Since when do you believe in? I was going to say heart, but soul is fine. Since always, why not? It's just a word to describe the emotional fabric of our being, whatever it is that makes us us. Maybe it's not a tattoo, maybe it's a scar. Regardless, I don't think it ever goes away. I think we grow around it or go on despite it when it becomes necessary to do so. Of course, I still love her. I also hate her and am indifferent to her because all of that can occupy the same space without zeroing out. We're complicated animals, pet. Rubik's Cubes wearing pants, to quote the tool man himself. Don't pout. Don't think that any of this shades over your memory or the memories we shared. Our love was a different animal. Silence. You know what I remember most about those early days with Andy? I remember it was October. I remember it was homecoming, and bonfires and my birthday, and it was death and it was rebirth. I remember it was red and gold and fire, and sweet smoke, perfume, and rot. I remember sitting on the bleachers with my second-hand clarinet on my lap, my face painted with green and white school colors, and I remember being close enough to touch her but not daring to just in case. In case of. In case I was dreaming the whole thing. In case I'd created a burning angel to keep me warm just in time for winter. But if I told her, if she knew I knew, she might dissolve into smoke and I'd just be me again. I remember kissing her in front of a crowd of bemused strangers, dancing awkward, slow and ever so close. She glittered, Erica. She was the last bloom before winter, and she was mine just as much as I was hers. Which, of course, is a requirement of tragedy. You know damned well you wouldn't be here digging into me if I hadn't loved her. Can you imagine how empty all of this would be if the punchline was? One day, I woke up to the sad realization that I never loved her, and that she had never truly loved me. In a rage, I dashed her brains out with a rock, and with her death, I finally found satisfaction and release. I doubt you'd haunt me so if that was all it was. Penny slinks into the kitchen, still wearing her headphones, and we stare at each other. I wave, and she slumps into a chair. I figure standing still is my best option, so I lean back into the stove casually and wait for her to make a move. Eventually, she takes off her headphones and scowls at me. I feel like I'm your secretary. Yours and booze. It sucks. Maybe sitting down is a good idea after all. Someone on our street is burning leaves without a permit, and that's wonderful. There's a town ordinance against burning leaves in a residential area, and absolutely none of my neighbors give a shit. No one in authority enforces it. That makes me smile. There are very few things more Yankee than the tacit agreement to ignore any law or ordinance that doesn't reflect 6 generations of common sense tradition. Penny is a part of that tradition whether she realizes it or not. Penny represents the next gen island girl, and she's pissed off because I've employed her in a series of bullshit games. She's not even consciously aware how very mean she is. Penny doesn't care if her dad is an alcoholic. She cares if I miss enough work to get fired because that means we can't pay our oil bill or buy Hot Pockets. She doesn't care if I drink. She cares if I hide it from her because that means she can't trust me. She doesn't give 2 shits whether or not her brother is banging an 8th grader. She's pissed because she had to pretend to be something she wasn't in order to bail her brother out, and now she has to keep pretending because Casey thought her caring and concern was real. She wants to give me a makeover, Dad. She wants to get mani-pedis together. And she'll go along with it because she's committed now, and she hates that, and she hates her brother and me for creating the lie to begin with. In my daughter's far vision, she sees a future where Casey Donovan is omnipresent. She sees a lifetime of pretending ahead of her, and she's resigned to it. Pissed, but resigned. I want to laugh, but I don't. I want to hug her and hold her and tell her welcome to the club, baby girl, because I understand exactly why she's pissed and I agree completely with her anger. We did use her, and we did break something intrinsically part of her idiom. We told her to be fake. I want to tell her I hate it too, and I think that's all right, so I do. It doesn't mollify her, but she relaxes her shoulders a little and makes eye contact. I say, "So you've made a friend. It could be worse, princess." I am a lot of things. A lot of bad, terrible things, but the worst parts aren't my sins themselves, but the make-believe that my shit smells like roses when it doesn't. Andy was a controlling, manipulative bitch, but she was honest about it. That's what I need the nagging voice to understand. Lies are cancerous, even when there is no other option other than bravely facing the firing squad. Lies ruin something inside you. Penny is mad because I let fear make me into a coward and her into an accomplice. I say I'm sorry, but there was no other way, and she nods. She grits her teeth and she swallows the burden for good. We'll probably never speak of it again, and that is textbook Downeast Yankee. That's Maine. So what's the new story about? You said it was dark. I don't smile. I sigh and shake my head. It's just a story bug, and not a very good one. But let me tell you about the mystery of the traffic cone. We make tea. From ARC, previously unpublished. Sophie is sitting in the booth opposite the pile of wax that used to be Danny. Her eyes are almost invisible, hiding, sucked into her skull. She's either forgotten how to blink or lost the knack for it. Carrot and the Rev are arguing at a polite distance, but we can all hear them. The ARC wasn't built for speed or privacy. I can't see Dater or Laurie, but I know they're somewhere. I can smell them. Everyone has a smell. Just another observation, boys and girls, I hope you're taking notes. Beneath the dust and the sour sweat of caged animals, everyone is decaying in their own unique way, and it's all underscored by the rat a tat-tat of death water in rain gutters. Walking requires full body attention and concentration now that everything autonomous is glitching, and it takes me more than 5 minutes to cross the 10 feet of floor to where Sophie is starring off. My hands wave pathetic, searching for invisible obstacles. My eyes are barely functional, and my tongue darts about without permission like it can smell the sweat beads running across the wells of my cheeks just to get stuck in the patchy fur. I need to tell Sophie that it's okay, that we're all dying. I need to set her off. I'm determined. Time dilates, then rushes forward in a lurch, and I'm wheezing, both hands on the table to keep from collapse. Sophie doesn't flinch, neither does what's left of Danny. We're all dying, Sophie. Danny just beat the rest of us to it. She turns her head slowly, evenly, like she is made of clocks, and her voice has no soul. I know that, Ted. I know. She pats my hand as if she were still human, and I shiver because she's almost gone. I continue because I can, and I want to, and her head locks back into place, vacant. It all comes down to what we were made of when we came in here. Danny was a husky boy, which you'd think would give him an advantage, more body to burn, but he had a weak heart. That's all. His heart just gave up. Deirdre has staggered into view, the Rev a step behind. I imagine they're worried I'm poisoning Danny's wake for dear sweet Sophie, but I'm not. The poison is in the rain and in our veins, and in the recycled air we keep breathing in and out. The poison is the well water, our communion bread and wine. I smile at the Rev like we're old friends and wave at Deirdre. The human body can't live without food and water for long, and booze isn't even a band-aid. Beer, wine, dark liquor. There's calories there and traces of water, sure, but not enough. Not enough to keep a body going more than a few days before breaking down. And clear liquors, like vodka, are the worst, dear. You're putting some heavy stress on your kidneys to sort out the alcohol from the water in that glass. And if you can keep it down without losing consciousness, without retching it back up enough alcohol to get sufficient water to survive, that is, you'll wish you hadn't. You'll be in agony as your body goes into ketosis, melting your baby fat for food. You probably won't last long enough for vitamin C deficiency to set in, but if you did, you'd literally begin to fall apart. Eventually, you'll simply bleed to death. Thirsty, confused, and too weak to move. That's what we all have to look forward to. Danny's body was being merciful. I'm surprised the Rev doesn't cut me off. I even want him to, but he's as blank-faced as Sophie. Care to say a few words, Rev? He drops his head, and I assume he's praying. Disappointing. Carrot and Laurie have joined the party, and Carrot looks anxious in his pallid stink. What should we do with his body? He asks no one in particular, and the Rev lifts his head and says we should move it to the basement for now. For now, I want to scream. You really still think there's an after this coming down the pike? We could always eat him, since you're so keen on surviving. Deirdre gasps a little, and the Rev frowns but doesn't say anything. He leaves that to Carrot. Shut up, Ted, just shut up. So I shrug and leave it at that. The Rev and Carrot slip their shaky arms beneath the dead man and drag him out of the booth and into the floor. Even with Laurie and Deirdre's help, the best they can manage is to drag Danny unceremoniously to the top of the stairs. No one wants to roll him down, so they just leave him there and retreat, drained to their corners, Deirdre and the Rev, Laurie with Carrot. Sophie is sleeping with her eyes open, and I reach for the bottle of vodka she's forgotten about. Everything hurts, and I am so damned thirsty. When the nightmare was still new and there was still water, before the smell of our own shit and stale urine became cloying, before we all chose to drown ourselves, when we still resembled the pictures in our wallets. The Rev passed the time telling Bible stories, and we all listened. He said we were a congregation, and what an odd clutch we were. A Methodist minister, 2 lapsed Catholics, a Unitarian, an Episcopalian, a 4C Congregationalist, and 1 atheist. Though to be fair, no one but the Rev practiced, not even Laurie, who said she believed in no God but reason. It didn't matter. She listened just the same. Like I said, we all did. Noah and the flood, the folly of Babel, the faith of Job, familiar fables to everyone except Deirdre, who said her parents dragged her and her little sister to church for Easter, and that was it. What mattered was that they were stories, and stories can stop time, or bypass time, or give time a reason to exist, and we all needed that. On the 3rd night after the 3rd day of listening to the relentless rain wash away everything, and everyone we used to call ours, Sophie started singing, and it was like sex. Laurie rested her head on King Carrot's shoulder, and Danny hummed, and the Rev just closed his eyes and prayer grooved. It was a trip, and I was angry. I was dry and angry, and I wanted to ruin it, so I did. I scooted my ass across the oiled wooden floor to where Deirdre was pretending to know the lyrics, mush-mouthing and insecure. Just yummy. I think the Rev has the whole damn Bible memorized. How about you? The girl actually giggled. Unreal. The sort of thing that wolves dream about but never catch. Probably he is like a priest or something. Or something. Actually, he's a minister. Don't let the collar fool you. He's an authentic New England Methodist hard ass. That man could crush coal into diamond between those prayer hands. She giggled again, into her hand this time, which was somehow even more adorable, and she smiled at me. Big teeth smile. I have no guile smile, and I could have eaten her alive, scabs and all, right then and there. I nodded instead. It's true. When Sophie's done singing, you should ask him about Eutychus. Who? Just a kid in the Bible. Eutychus, it's a joke. He'll get it. And I smile because I know he will. Deirdre, you deserve so much better than this. Did you ever think you die a virgin? I bet you did. It's only Friday and the whole weekend is ruined, and everything is terrible, just terrible. And it's all Bradley's fault, and Deirdre wants to cry and claw out his stupid eyes and punch Bradley in his stupid face. And it's not fair, cause all she did was let him feel her boob over her bra, and he told everyone that she. And now Cynthia Myers is telling everyone that she's a slut, and that she goes all the way with all the fishermen, and she's just jealous cause Bradley is 18, and Cynthia looks like a boy in a tank top. And no one understands that she's in love, and it's real even if he is stupid, and she wants to forgive him, and say it doesn't matter, but he wouldn't even care. And that hurts the worst, and no one wants to go shopping with her this weekend, cause she's such a whore. And she can't tell them she's a virgin cause they'd all laugh and call her stupid. I'm not stupid. She kicks the crumbling sidewalk and screams down the sidewalk like her red ponytail really is made of fire. Maybe she can tell Bethy cause Bethy is 18 like Bradley, and she knows Deirdre's not a slut because they still share a room and everything. There are too many people on Pine Street, and everyone is looking up, so Deirdre looks up, and the sky is moving like ink in water, and the ink is purple. And people have phones with cameras up to take pictures of the purple wet sky like idiots grinning when it starts to rain, and all Deirdre can think of is her white tank top and her lace bra, and she doesn't have a coat, and everyone will see her slut boobs. And it's all ruined cause Bradley and his stupid face. A bird falls out of the sky and hits her shoulder. It's bubbling red and it burns her skin, and now everyone is screaming. The sky breaks open like a balloon and purple sheet of burning slaps her from everything Bradley into so much pain. She thinks she's dying, and she will die a virgin, and that's not fair, not fair, not fair. She's running and burning and dripping like an ice cream cone, and the rain is like Bradley's hands all over her white tank top, bare arms, bare neck, burning her, and she can't breathe, it's in her mouth, and it tastes like Bradley when he chews dip and kisses her so hard it hurts. But there is a tall man with a coat over her head, and he grabs her and shoves her through a door, and she's never been so scared, and she pees herself, but she doesn't care, get it off of me, get it off of me. The Rev's sleeves were rolled up against the humid stink of our collective breath, and the ozone of rainy nights in New England prickled the hair on his blistered arms from where he grabbed the girl. I baptize you, torn from the death womb into this pit where we sit and tell stories. He smiled as Sophie faded out and nodded his thanks as she blushed. I used to sing in church when I was a girl. Guess I remember some of it. The Rev cleared his throat, and that's when Deirdre told my joke. Do you know the one about you, Tyke us? And his face just fell. It was priceless. There hasn't been a story time since we all gave up sobriety, and that's fine. Sophie's sung her last hymn. I must have drifted, slipped into a conscious dream, because the candles are lit haphazardly up and down and all around. Sophie is still staring through me. I think her face is broken. In the corner, I can see the top of Carrot's head silhouetted, bobbing staccato, and the brim of the Rev's hat perfectly still like a halo or an eclipse in front of him. Lori is nearby, and they're deep into something I want to see and hear, so I pull myself from the booth and drool across the floor. Conversation, agitated hushings. Carrot sounds bitchy and whiny, and that's funny. The Rev's voice is like a whiskey drum. You'll burn, both of you, he almost growls. We are still being judged. And I stop, cause I know what's happening, and it's better than I'd ever imagined it could be.